for better gut health or spleen qi health. The most profound lesson I've learned in studying traditional Chinese medicine and functional medicine, also known as integrative medicine, is that they reveal things that would otherwise remain hidden under the conventional medical model. In conventional medicine, it takes a lot to change dogma, and we remain outdated for decades when lives are at stake. We see this as the catastrophe we're now dealing with in America and increasingly throughout the world. Our life expectancy is declining, according to the CDC. We're the only developed country in the world with these abysmal statistics because we don't follow facts. TCM teaches us that the body is a connected whole, intimately part of its environment, and largely, if not entirely, made of energy, not matter or physical things. Quantum physicists and ancient traditions tell us that only 4% of the universe is physical matter. TCM understands this and applies it. So why are the vast majority of Americans with gut symptoms not getting properly diagnosed? One reason is that cameras are limited in what they can see. They rarely find infections, and the most critical area that needs to be assessed is never evaluated. Why? Because it's hard to get to. When you have an upper endoscopy, a small camera is put down into the stomach area and perhaps a few inches into the small intestine or the duodenum. So they assess these areas with a camera, looking for cancer, ulcers, inflammation, gastritis, hiatal hernia. Increasingly, H. pylori bacteria is being tested for and treated, but then it stops there. In a colonoscopy, the large intestine is assessed for cancer, diverticulosis, ulcerative colitis, and Crohn's disease. But the small intestine is not assessed then either. So we have about 20 to 23 feet of the intestines that cannot be evaluated or assessed directly. A Johns Hopkins study done in 2014 suggested that about 70% of patients who see a gastroenterologist for abdominal symptoms have small intestine bacterial overgrowth. An alarming study on our kids found that 70% of children with abdominal symptoms also have very few medical doctors even believe in this condition. Excuse me. So it was a relief to see some studies being done by top-notch academic institutions to bring attention to this dangerous hidden condition. To appreciate the gravity of this condition, we must first understand the function of the small intestine and why it's hard to properly assess. Number one is it's 23 feet long in most people. Number two, we don't have the instruments that can really assess it properly. We also have to understand that it's responsible for the absorption of all our food. So all that you ingest is absorbed, it's digested and absorbed through the small intestine. So as we discussed earlier, TCM spleen makes qi and blood from food. Essentially, all metabolism derives from absorption of food through the small intestine. While this sounds simplistic, it's critical to appreciate because this 23-foot tube in the abdomen is responsible for all the energy your body makes to power itself. Then we have to ask how this function can get disturbed. So one reason is the pancreas, which makes enzymes, which is also part of TCM spleen, may not be functioning. It's widely known that the pancreas produces fewer and fewer enzymes as we age. Enzymes are critical proteins that begin to break down food products for us to make them small enough to be absorbed through the small intestine so that they can get into the bloodstream and be distributed through the body. Number two, the small intestine is actually very prone to infection. Why? There are many reasons for this, related basically to a weakened immune system. We rely on our immune system to protect the large and small intestine each time we ingest food or put anything in our mouths. Everything we eat is teeming with bacteria, and our immune system assures that these bugs don't make it down to our small intestine, which should be a relatively sterile area. The acid in our stomach also defends us against abnormal bugs gaining access to the small intestine. So taking antacids would eliminate this defense system and make us more prone to infection. Number 3, the small intestine is prone to infection due to stress, which we know, based on decades of research, suppresses the immune system. This also allows bacteria and viruses to take over and overgrow. 4, there's also some speculation that keeping the large intestine microbiome in balance is critical to prevent overgrowth that may impact the small intestine and other areas of the body. The body keeps a very tight balance between the gut, where 70% of good bugs are housed, and the rest of the body. The mechanisms that control this are not well understood at this time, but the mucus secreted by the large intestine is one critical component to maintain this balance. The mucus secreted by the intestines in general is a critical component. Number 5. It's clear that the large intestine microbiome is involved in all aspects of the immune system, shown in the large intestine microbiome. Given the use of pesticides in our food sources and the injudicious use of antibiotics, which has clearly disturbed this delicate balance over the past 50 years or so, this is likely at least contributing in part to the 74% of Americans who currently have gut symptoms. So there are several mechanisms that can lead to infection in the small intestine. And we have studies suggesting that up to 70% of people with GI symptoms likely have this infection. Yet most doctors don't really believe in the possibility of infection in the small intestine. And not many gastroenterologists know about or treat small intestine bacterial overgrowth. I recently took my son to a pediatric gastroenterologist at the request of his dad, who wanted to make sure we covered all bases. He had been having some gastrointestinal symptoms for a couple of months, and it was hard to tell if he was catching something from school or if there was something else going on. So I went ahead and I diagnosed him, and I found that he did have small intestine bacterial overgrowth and started a regimen of natural herbs for him. So we did go ahead and take him to a pediatric gastroenterologist who flatly admitted to me that he knew nothing about small intestine bacterial overgrowth, even though studies were showing that 7 out of every 10 of his pediatric clients likely had this infection. As I looked around this waiting room at all these kids in his office who were likely not to get the help they needed, I felt a pit in my stomach, while at the same time feeling a significant level of relief that my son wouldn't be impacted because I happen to know how to treat this condition. If I didn't know to refuse the antacid this doctor wanted to prescribe, my son would have been placed on this medication. His symptoms would have been masked, and possibly years down the road, he'd be susceptible to other more serious conditions, being linked to a growing list of medical conditions, which we will discuss when we come back from this commercial break. We're getting ready for our first commercial break, so thanks for listening to Awakened Wellness with Milen Riobe, MD, right here on Dream Vision 7 Radio. You can learn more at RiobeIntuitiveMedicine.com. Riobe is spelled R-I-O, as in boy, E as in Edward. Give us a call with your questions or comments. The number is area code 83220-1200. When we come back, we'll talk about how hidden gut infections may be putting your life at risk and what you can do about it. Thank you.
What happens when we begin to realize that the 200-year experiment we've called the American healthcare system has failed? Learn how spirituality, ancient traditions, and cutting-edge science are merging to create a new paradigm of wellness on Awakened Wellness with Mylène Riobe, MD. Tune in every Tuesday at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Time with live shows on the first and third mornings when you can call in and ask Dr. Mylène the questions that matter most to you. Dr. Mylène is the medical director of the Riobe Institute of Integrative Medicine in Jupiter, Florida. For more information, visit riobeintegrativemedicine.com. Dream Vision 7 Radio Network invites you in for this dynamic, forward-thinking show.
Omega Institute, offering workshops, retreats, and online learning dedicated to awakening the best in the human spirit. For 40 years, Omega has been a gathering place for great thinkers, creative talent, spiritual teachers, and social visionaries. With 390 workshops to choose from, Omega offers something for everyone. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org.
EDESIA is a U.S. nonprofit dedicated to the dream of ending childhood malnutrition for millions of children around the world through the manufacture of Plumpy Nut and other nutrient-rich, peanut-based, ready-to-use foods. EDESIA has already delivered life and hope to nearly 1 million children in over 26 developing countries. To find out how you can join EDESIA's dream of ending childhood malnutrition, please visit edesiaglobal.org. If you're living with fear and stress in your life, there is an answer.
If you're ready for a better way, step through The Doorway.
The Doorway is a multimedia online course for transcending fear, transforming relationships, accessing inner guidance, and experiencing more inspiration and trust in your life.
To learn more about these online courses based on the teachings of A Course in Miracles and David Hoffmeister, go to acimcourses.com.
What if everything we've experienced is but a pale image of what human life could become? It's now time to bring forward a new set of guidelines to live by, a vision of what human life was meant to be. The Second Genesis Awakening with your host, Deborah Bruin-Tout, singer, songwriter, and intuitive facilitator, will share insights and understandings interwoven with lots of stories from people just like you and I, who have longed for and begun this evolutionary shift of how life works.
Hi, I'm Deborah. Join me every Monday on DreamVision7Radio.com. The show airs at 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Time. See you there.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Welcome back to Awakened Wellness with Mylène Riobe, MD. I'm your host, Dr. Mylène, and thank you for joining me today, live, January 15th, 2019. Today we're getting a gut check, and we're discussing the hidden infections that could be placing your life at risk and what you can do about it. So in our last segment, we talked about small intestine bacterial overgrowth and how it can take hold and how it is unfortunately not recognized yet in our conventional medical community by enough physicians to be as impactful as it needs to be. Small intestine bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, as it's called, is being linked to a growing list of medical conditions. For obvious reasons, because, again, TCM spleen is the hub of health, and if it is infected and not working properly, it's going to impact every aspect of health that we can think of. The most shocking one I discovered this year was pulmonary embolus. And I've been seeing a lot of commercials on TV for what they call DVT